Yes, boys and girls, I've been waiting for this for a little bit now. I've been excited. So if I start yipping and yapping, Mr. JBS just cut me off because boys and girls, look who we have on a fine Sunday afternoon. It's the one and only Joseph von Schmidt. I'm stirring the pot. What's up, my friend?
Hey, what's up, Donnie? Thanks for having me, man. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Now, this is something special for me because I've never been able to talk to you because I've only known of the mystique, if you will, of one Joseph von Schmidt. So now I get to talk to you personally. So this is really cool for me, being selfish right now. But on this show, this isn't my show, my friend. This is our show. This is the fan show. For the fans that don't know one Joseph von Schmidt, we get to know him. And for the fans that do know him, and there's plenty out there, let me tell you, we're getting into that a little bit later. We get to know you even a little bit more. So that's pretty much what this is. We have fun. We try to stay professional. I may get loose with the lips. I might drop an F-bomb. If you don't like that, just let me know and I won't do that. But I get a little loose with the lips, you know?
Hey, first of all, man, you got to be who you are, just like I have to be who I am, so no need to apologize for that.
Well, I'm going to start off with this, and I have a million, no, a trillion questions that I'm going to try to fit in this 1 hour. I hope we can do this because I'm going to shoot for
Wow.
about an hour. I've gone
Okay.
over it. I've gone over an hour, and I know who you know who this is. Uh, I've gone over an hour with a bunch of the talent, but one specific 2.5 hour run to a plastic Funko likeness of one Dan the Man.
Wow. That
Yeah,
must have been really interesting.
to say to say the least, it was something else. You boys and girls, if you want to look back just to laugh at me talking to a plastic doll, look it up, stir in the pot. Dan the Man. Don't watch the whole thing. It's 2.5 hours. I mean, holy cripe. Dan the
Uh,
Man's quite the character.
he is. I love Dan. He's a great guy. A
We're
great
gonna
guy,
get
great
into
talent. I like him a lot.
yes, absolutely. We're gonna get into the great many talents that have come in and out of the fine promotion of PWA because I that's where exactly where I want to start with all of this.
We're going to
Uh,
talk about the first one or the second one or the third one.
well, see, I came in where it was in Cheshire, and Foggy was up there with Bruce, and the Schluter family was up there in the front row. Shane Fair would come up there in the front row. So I came in at the tail end of Friday Night Alley fights when it was every other Friday. So
So
I came in.
that was the third one. That was the third installation. We started and we had the first one in 2001 where we had like Balls Mahoney, Raven, all those guys on it. Norman Smiley, Steve Carino. Then we had the second one that came out of New Haven, and that was where we started the Friday night fight concept. And then the one that you're talking about in Cheshire was actually the concept where we had where the were random draws. So the wrestlers would stand around the ring. They would get a random number. Random numbers would be called. Not a work at all. Completely legitimate. Guys working off the cuff, and it really was. Out of all the stuff that we did, that was one of the proudest things to do. Was getting an opportunity to put guys to work each other and really hone their skills against, you had guys from New York, you had guys from Pennsylvania, you had guys coming in from New Hampshire, Georgia, like they're coming in from all over. So it was just a really, really magical time for wrestling in Connecticut.
uh, for us, the fans, that concept of the heel on one side, and face on the other side, random number draws, and we always thought that was what they say a work. But I've tried digging information out of the talent that have been in PWA, and they're like, "No, man, that was legit." I've
Yeah.
spoken with Miss Scarfo, your partner in crime, if you will, at PWA, and she's
Mm-hmm.
like, "No, it was totally legit. We had a lot of fun with it. Us, the fans, Mr. Von Schmidt, us, the fans, absolutely loved that whole thing that you were doing. It was something very different and unique. and a lot of fun for the talent because they legit did not know who they were going to wrestle that evening.
Right. You have a lot of guys like what I was really what I really loved to promote and really like to pull out was you know, on the independent scene, especially when I was coming up, you really just were wrestling the same guys in and out. For me, I started out at Jason Knight School and was trained by Jason Knight and Justin Credible. And, you know, you had guys like Joel Gertner coming through the door and Kid Cash and all those guys. And, but one thing about wrestling on the indie level is you were wrestling pretty much the same five guys in and out every month. And so what PWA was really doing is, with the connections I had all over the United States and all over the world, we had guys coming in, and there were just guys on the independents would never wrestle these guys. You know, these were the kind of matches that we were putting together. Like, you know, the guys in the common places of wherever they were coming from, Pennsylvania, Canada, we had Ecuador, you're just a once in a lifetime wrestling match for a lot of those guys.
Absolutely. And we got to see some really cool talent come in and out of there. And again, I came in way late as a fan in the tenure of PWA, but I'm going to take one talent specifically, and then I'd like to talk about a few others if that's okay.
Yeah, sure. We'll use talent loosely until I agree with it. All right.
Okay. All right. I'm going to start because of the higher platform where he is right now is one Sonny Kiss we saw come in PWA right at the very tail end of the tenure of PWA. Yeah. And it was really cool because then you saw Sonny Kiss. And that's what I love about the indies, my friend. And that's exactly why I do this show, to see where they start and how they blossom and they evolve through their character, through their career and stuff. And now we see Sonny Kiss on one of the highest platforms right now in the industry, being AEW, seeing every single week pretty much, may it be on Dark or on Dynamite on TV. So Sonny Kiss, fine talent, came in, had a little stint there. And then again, PWA went on a downturn for a bit. And then we seen Sonny Kiss on a bigger stage. I thought that was really cool as a fan.
Yeah, Sonny Kiss, where I originally met him was in New Jersey for ECPW, and when I was NWA heavyweight champion. And you know, he was just a young kid coming in, and you know, I saw that he had a lot of talent. You know, but at that point, he had no recognition whatsoever. So you know, it was just really cool. And another guy too that you see on WWE, he didn't come through PWA, but you know, I was in the locker rooms with him as he was coming up. He was the Punisher, and he's on WWE now. I forget his name, but the Archer of Infamy, what he's going by now. Do you know?
Damien, I believe.
Yeah. So, you know, those guys were like, you know, up and coming, and those were when I was like at the top of my indie run and stuff like that. Those guys were just coming in. And I always was really big on taking young talent and trying to give them a push, trying to revitalize the business, because also when I was coming up, you know, you had all the old guys on top, and they never really wanted to push the young guys. They never really, you know, they were few and far between where someone would push young talent. And I definitely wanted to be different with that. And I tried to use all the fame that I had acquired to push young talent, my students, and even just guys that I saw that were going to be good. You know, they were going to get places. And it's not, you know, and I want to just reiterate that too, because being good doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get to WWE, AEW, you know, any of those places, because it's just, you know, I walked through the doors of WWE and I was there for a couple of days doing like some dark stuff, and I just walked around and I saw how it all operated, and I just didn't want to be part of WWE, or I didn't want to be part of that corporate entity. I enjoyed what I was doing on the independents, and that's where my story is. A lot of people ask me why I really didn't push to go to WWE. It just wasn't a fit for me. I didn't feel it. I didn't like it. And I really enjoyed just traveling to Mexico, Ecuador, Canada, England, and going all over the place.
I use, we've discussed this on this show. I'll use Sammy Callahan as an example because Sammy Callahan was doing his thing. He got into NXT. He became Solomon Crow, changed his hair, looked a bit different. Wasn't feeling what was going on, and again, probably in the environment like you're saying, and got out of it, went right back to the Indies, and really did something solid for himself. Now he's pretty much like the face of Impact, if you want to call it that, kind of thing. You see him every single week. Impact is starting to come back up on a different turn. When they were moved up to Canada, their shit fell all apart, and now they're back doing a different vibe. And Sammy Callahan's been right at the front of that. But I use him as an example. Men and women, they leave the Indies, they go there for the big dream, they're just not feeling it, and then they come right back.
They realize that the big dream is actually a nightmare. And, the reality is for me, it doesn't matter how much money I'm making. If I'm not happy and I'm not like with my family and pushing towards like building what I want to build, it's not really worth it for me. You could drop me $1 million. And if I'm not happy, I just don't want to be there. That's the kind of personality I have. Anyone who really, truly knows me knows that about me. I'm not driven by money. I'm driven by with the passions that I have.
And it showed at the PWA shows, because I'm going to revert back to that face heel split up, because in the same token of where the heels, the face were on the left when you walked in the venue, and the heels were on the right, the crowd was the same way. All of the face crowd, if you will, was on the left. And it was so amazing because I speak with Mr. Tom Burke on the reg out of Massachusetts, and he has such a fine brain to pick. And he brought up something to my attention that the younger crowd really isn't being seen much as it used to be years ago. But at PWA, my goodness, the kids were rampant and very vocal at PWA, were they not, sir?
Yes. I mean, that's really what it is like you need, not only do you need to make the next generation of talent, you need to also bring the next generation of fans in. And that's what a lot of other companies were doing too. ECW was a pioneer setter, trendsetter with what it did with the hardcore, death matches, blood matches, barbed wire, and that's what really pulled me back into wrestling. When when I was a little kid, I was like, I'm going to be a professional wrestler. I knew I was going to be a professional wrestler at the age of 9. And, but with seeing that and coming up with what I did, it's the same thing. You need to push the talent, just like you also need to draw in kids. You need to draw in the next generation of fans. And that's really what, that was always my goal. That's why we had the only youth program in Connecticut. And we started that too, is because, a lot of people will bring their kids to baseball, minor league baseball, junior soccer, junior football, but there was nothing for wrestling. And it's kind of just, it's really something to prepare them to become a great athlete, and that's what I was trying to do in that level as well.
It was a great time at the events at PWA. But what I like to, after each event, the talent would still hang around ringside, let the kids come up, take pictures, do autographs, whatever was going on. And they would hang out for a while. You guys didn't close shop for a little bit. You had such a cool environment in that fashion, and I thought it was really amazing.
Yeah, we always just tried to run like a family run a show. We saw the talent as family, we saw the fans as family. We just wanted to have a good time, and that's really what it's about. It wasn't about the almighty dollar. It was about building something that was memorable, that was going to be a memory for these kids growing up. And, I still get messages from people that I don't realize that I even touched to this day. And they just, talk to me about, the times that I trained them, the time they were in the youth program, the time that they came and saw me at a show. And that's really what's worth it at the end of the day.
Now, some of the talent, when PWA ended up closing shop, if you will, there was some talent being taught at PWA already. And the likes of them kind of went to other schools because where do we go? What do we do now? So some of them within Connecticut, some of them went to PAPW in East Haven, Paradise Alley Pro Wrestling. Some of them went to Tesha Strength out of East Hartford, Connecticut. And wow, these talents that have spread out from PWA and that have, gone their separate ways and done their thing, now they are broadening their wings and going to other promotions and doing their thing. And I know that you're always watching, probably as a proud papa, would seeing some of this young talent that was starting at PWA when PWA closed their doors in Cheshire and seeing where they're at now. Are you not following that young talent to where they are right now?
I like to admit that I'm not, but it's only because I have a brand new child. I have actually a brand new family. My oldest daughter is going to be 2 on February 8th, and my second daughter was born on January 17th. So she's about 12 or 13 days old. So, thank you. And so, I mean, I do kind of keep up with them and here and there, but like, I never really, after I started pursuing wrestling, I really never studied TV. I never watched other wrestlers. I kind of just created stuff in my head. And, I am proud of every single student that ever has come out of PWA. And, but I'm a very honest person, and I'm not micro following anyone's career. And, but I am happy. I do know that where, Dickie Moon has moved to, and where, Wrecking Ball has moved to, and, and it's good. I'm proud of every single one of those people that have come out and chased their dream and moved. And that was something about me when I was coming up. My teachers didn't want me to go to other places to learn, where if you ask any of my students, I always recommend them to go around, learn from who you think has the ability to teach you, to what you can learn, similar style, what they can bring to the table, what you admire about them. The reality was that I knew that with all the training that I had, I've trained in Mexico, I've trained all over the world with all different trainers. My training style was 100% rounded. They didn't really have to go anywhere, but you never hold anyone back because you let them experience what they need to experience before they know what it is.
That's definitely been said many times on this show, is get as much schooling as you can. Go from training school to training school, because not every teacher is the same. Not every teacher has the same mentality. Not every teacher has the same experience coming up. So they each have their own way. So you get to take some of that with you each time you go to a different facility.
Right. All those things are valid. But the other part of that too, which is really important, is that teacher going to invest in you? Because there's certain things where you walk through the door and the teacher is like, he won't admit this, but he'll be like, I am a 260 pound plus guy, 6'4". If you walk through my door looking like that, I'm going to invest a lot of time and effort in you. And then there's guys that you walk through their school and they're like, if you're under 5'8", I'm going to invest a lot of time in you and make you a flyer. And, so it's just like a lot of different things. You don't know what the teacher is going to invest in. It just having a name, it isn't being a good teacher. A good teacher is seeing what someone walking through, what talent they possess and how to hone their skills for what they are, and, unfortunately you have a lot of schools out there that they have big name guys and they just suck the money out of the kids' pockets. And then they're just like, I never planned on training you anyways. So there's lots of different things that, these guys have to learn, and it's just.
Right. And I've always said that about wrestling. There's so much of the puzzle. There's so many pieces of the puzzle to create one person as a wrestler, the character, the mindset, the physicality, everything that comes to being a wrestler. There's like a million trillion different pieces to make it all come together. So my hat's always been off to every single talent out there. That's why I would never do it. First, I can't even pick up like a 45-pound dumbbell without wanting to fall through the floor. It's on
Yeah.
film with Chris Cannon. It's on film. So
Yeah, that'd be pretty difficult. There's a lot of dumbbells in wrestling, so yeah.
uh, touche and agreed, my friend. Oh, that was a good one. Now, I just want to stick with PWA just a smidge longer.
Yeah,
The
sure.
talent that we saw as fans, we started seeing some recurring faces there. You know, being the Dickie Moon, the Moonshine, and Nathaniel Carr, and Mantequilla, and Dan the Man, and some of those guys. Sebastian Cage was a champion. I
Yeah.
mean,
I love
holy
Sebastian. Yeah.
yeah. My point of saying all of those names is the talent was always running rampant through PWA, boys and girls. If you never heard of PWA, at least look them up on YouTube. There's still footage on the YouTube channel. Look this stuff up, and if you want, look up Mike Avitable. That's Foggy's page. The Fog Man. If you don't know who he is, the Fog Man from Center Ring was at every single show, taped every single event, and I know it's on his YouTube. Look back at this PWA stuff because we had so much fun over there.
Yeah. Plus, we have a ton of stuff. Like I have DVDs of all the shows. Not the Friday night, not the Friday night fights, but the time before that from the second coming out of New Haven.
Okay.
And we have tons of DVDs. I just haven't put them out. I have them all done, and I've sold copies, but I haven't made new copies of any of that. But if someone wants to get a hold of me, you got tons of footage. Like you'll see, lots of like VSK who's doing Impact, and you got Grim Reefer, and then you got Brian Idol, who was Earl Cooter, and you had Ox Baker making appearances, and just all sorts of really Abyss, and it's just really awesome shows, and it was a great time period.
Now, to put you on the spot a little bit, I want to kind of concentrate on the students that were at PWA. You named a couple of them already. And not only were they students, but they've become trainers and such within the promotion. If you had to pick, now let's hypothetical. Joseph von Schmidt, he wants to take, say, a handful of students out with him on a tour, if you will, and do the circuit and bring some talent with him from PWA, from the student showcase. Who do you have in mind? And not to slight anybody else that doesn't get mentioned, but on a handful, who do you have in mind that you're going to take with you on the road?
Okay, that's going to be a two-part answer because I have to refine it. Is it based on my personal liking of them, or is it based on their personal talent? Because there's difference in talent and traveling together with somebody. Traveling with somebody that you don't actually have a lot in common with and rub each other the wrong way is definitely an annoyance in itself. But if so, is it based on talent, or is it based on, do I personally want to travel with them?
Well, let's make it a comfortable tour, because if you're going to be on the road, you want to make it a comfortable tour. So let's make it a comfortable tour. People that you enjoy that still has some fine talent.
Okay, so I'm going to lead off with Sebastian Cage. I'm going to take Sebastian Cage on the road with me. I'm going to take Dickie Moon on the road with me. I'm going to take Mantequilla on the road with me. Let's see. Those are the first three right off of the top of my head that I'm sitting in my car. I say, wait, we might have room for one more. So, and that's going to be the tough one right there, figuring that out. Let me just roll through my head on who's going to be that final person. Would be, geez, such a hard decision there. How about I get back to that fourth one? But those three right there, I'm definitely going to push those three to come with me and be on the road with me.
Now, you've mentioned you have international flavor, my friend. Can you count how many different countries you've been to besides the United States? Because what we were talking about previous, gaining those different experiences from different places. You've gone international. Do you know how many countries you've been to?
I won championships in Ecuador, accolades in Mexico, championships in all over Canada. So I did Canada, Nova Scotia, Labrador. We did England, where I won the Pro Wrestling Pride championship, and I came back to the United States, defended against AR Fox. So where else? So England, Mexico, Ecuador, all over the U.S. and all over Canada. So that was pretty much my stomping ground.
I got to say that's a fine career. Now, you mentioned that you were trained by Jason Knight, just incredible. I've spoken to. Go ahead.
Yeah. Go ahead and finish the question.
I've spoken to many a talent on this show that were also trained by Jason Knight and such. And now some great talent has come out of that school that was popping, and now that was in Waterbury, Connecticut. Am I correct on that?
You're correct.
Now, I there was some good times back then. I gotta say, as fans watching wrestling in that era, and I remember that I've actually gone to a couple Assault Championship Wrestling events when that was actually running for a little bit there. But what makes, and this is my question, what makes a talent that has gone through a solid career, and are you retired, officially retired? Is that correct?
I actually was trying to, but I made a commitment last year for the MomoCon convention here in Georgia, in Atlanta, and I really wanted just to step out and just bow out gracefully, not even really make a big deal about it. But the guy called me up and he was like, "You owe me." He goes, "You owe me those four shows," and so I said, okay, if those 4 shows happen, then I'll retire this year after I do those. And then, I had a couple other people contacting me from PA, from Georgia, from Connecticut, from New York, asking me to come do shows for them as well. So if that's going to be the case, then I'm just going to officially, this will be my last year performing in the ring.
Okay. So a nice little run to finish off.
21. It'll be 21 years. Yeah. So 21 years I've been in the wrestling business, not including my collegiate career. So collegiately, I started when I was 12. So, I've been involved with wrestling of some sorts for over 30 years.
My question is, what makes a performer, athlete, wrestler? You've had a good career. Excuse me. You've had a good career. And now you've started a company. What makes a talent start a company? Because we know, my friend, and I mean, I'm not trying to know that I know everything, but we know it's very hard to A, start it, and to B, continue, keep it afloat. What makes a talent want to do that?
Okay, that's going to be a pretty in detailed answer for me. But before we get too far away from my training, I want to just touch back on that. And I want to give actually a lot of credit to, I had my starting point at Jason Knight's school with Just Incredible. And then from there, I did some seminars and I went to Al Snow and he taught me something totally different that I would never even have thought of, and that was something that opened my eyes to starting to move around. But who really, really gave me my real polishing and training was a guy by the name of Mohicano. Mohicano was in Mexico. I was my friend, God rest his soul, had just passed away this year. No, sorry, beginning of last year. His name was Super Zeta, and he brought me to Mexico to train. And that's really where a lot of my lucha libre and my submission and strong style wrestling came from, was there. And so I just, when anyone brings up my training, I definitely don't want to leave out who really polished me and who really made me who I am. And then Ox Baker obviously came in later towards, the middle of my career, and he fine-tuned some other things. But going back to now your question of why does a talent want to make a company? And it goes back to what my original answer was with the beginning of this interview, is there was so much talent that, the wrestling world, in my eyes, needed young talent to revitalize it, to push it. And at that point in my career, I was making, really good money on the independents. And, even Justin Credible was one of the guys we were talking, and he was like, he goes, "You're one of the 1% who is doing your thing." And he's like making a living at it. He's like, he goes, "For what you're making out here," he goes, "you're pretty comparable to, some of the low end guys or medium guys in WWE." And he's like, you're making a decent living for just like what you're doing. And that's what I want to do. I wanted to invest my time and my money in building something that became what you went and saw, PWA, and family entertainment, family style. And just, I believe that I could just see people that walk through the door. I can understand their talent. I could see what their talent was, and I could train them. I can hone them, and I can polish them to be a complete company. And that was really the vision.
I have to say, the uniqueness of the heel face thing, that evolved into what you're saying is the third version of PWA. On the show, we like to speak of evolution of wrestling, evolution of character, and such, even evolution of wrestling fan. Now it seems that there was an evolution of PWA as a promotion. What and why brought that specific unique spin into PWA?
Can you ask that question again?
The heel face thing and the random draws of the number. What brought that into the evolution of PWA?
It's just something that I never saw being done before. And I just wanted to actually, I wanted to bring a uniqueness. And also, it's not just about the fans. It's about the wrestlers also having a chance to show their creativity, to show their training, to like win, lose, or draw. You also have to invest in your wrestlers. You can't just invest in the fans. And that might not sound right, but if you really think about it, I was in a hole I wanted to create. Like, do I care about the fans? Yes, of course. But I cared about the wrestlers just as much. And, if you just continue to have Nathaniel Carr wrestle Wrecking Ball Legursky night in and night out for 5 years, is that really doing them any justice? Does that make them any better? No, it doesn't. It just gives them, they're just working in the ring every month, like, for what they learn. They're not learning from someone who, someone coming in from Canada, someone coming from Ecuador. Had guys coming in from Hawaii. We had guys from New York, Pennsylvania, Florida, or California, all over coming in. And like, that to me is what I loved about wrestling, is seeing these guys, like I said, win, lose, or draw, it doesn't matter. They're getting their experience, and they're wrestling guys that they would never wrestle again.
That's for sure. I've seen some, one-of-a-kind matches at PWA that I've never seen anywhere else, that I've never seen at all,
Yeah.
Now, your character has been Josephine Schmidt, but what I usually like to get out of the talent that we speak with is your very first gimmick ever. Tell us it was something funky, like when Kane was the Christmas creature or something. What was the first gimmick that Josephine Schmidt had?
Okay, my very first gimmick was Pat Gunner out of Assault Championship Wrestling. So I got that name from a teacher. I didn't understand what it was. And you want to come say hi? Oh, here's my daughter. She's going to make a cameo. Say hello. Say hello, Mr. Kincaid. How are you?
Hi.
Nice to see you. Blow him a kiss. Blow him a kiss. All right.
With a smile, too. With a smile. That was awesome.
So I didn't understand the character. I didn't understand the name. And then it came out later. There's actually a pretty rough story behind that. But, I was like, I didn't get it. I didn't understand it. It's like and that back in that day, your teacher looked at it and you're like, you're Pat Gunner. And I'm like, what is that? You know what I mean? And it's like, and then I remember, and then we'll go into my evolution because it's actually a really good story. But Pat Gunner, I was like, I just don't understand. So I'm like, all right, Pat Gunner, military, going through the stuff in my head. And then I'm like, okay, so I'm going to be Pat Gunner. So where's the Army training base, Fort Sill, Oklahoma? And then I started just really investing in researching and pushing. And then, we won the tag team championships, me and a guy named Apollo. And then also, you might know Bull Dread. Bull Dread became my second partner, and he actually became my really running mate in the Assault Championship day. Well, him and Raging Ryan Cox was his name, and he was a worker who got hurt, and he became our manager. And so I took something that I had no idea what it was and made it successful. And then I started traveling to the Doghouse in New York and all over the place and starting to work. And then I found out later that, someone had asked my trainer, Jason Knight, who, why he gave me that gimmick name. And he said, what does it matter what name I give him? He's never going to make it anyways. So that was the story behind the name, and that didn't come out until about a year and a half into the career. But it didn't matter what he thought, because I took what he thought was going to be useless, and he was just going to take my money, and they kicked me out of the school, or I was going to quit. And I made a 21-year career out of what he thought was never going to be anything.
You invested in it, and that's the thing about. Anything in general, I guess, in life, but in wrestling, to invest into a character or a gimmick, or however you want to perceive it, or whatever, and to really push it and perceive it and give it to us, the fans. And even like you said, it's not always about the fans, it's about the wrestler being able to portray that character on a regular basis. But being invested is pretty much the most important thing. If you're not invested, it really never works out, because like you were saying, what do I do with it? What does it represent? How do I attack this thing? But you grabbed it and you did something with it.
Well, because the biggest thing is you ever hear the Butthole Surfers, the song, you never know how you look through someone else's eyes. That's how you have to really approach this business, because everyone sees themselves as Triple H. I don't care what they tell you on the outside, but inwardly, the majority of wrestlers believe that they are Triple H, and they are they can just pull off anything. And it's not true. So you really just need to listen. If your trainer tells you, hey, I need you to be this guy with a bow tie and a Speedo, oiling up and going out there and dancing, it's because he sees what your potential is for that point in time, and he's trying to get you in the ring. And that's where I think a lot of hard feelings come in wrestling. Of what I noticed is a trainer will tell their student how to get over and how to be an idea, an entity, and pull off the character. But, in the back of their head, they're like, nah, I'm Triple H. And it's and whether or not everyone watching out there, whether or not they want to agree to that or not, it's true. So just don't lie to yourself.
Now, when we started posting the graphics that Joseph von Schmidt was coming on the show, you said that you were breaking your radio silence. Why haven't you been out there and putting your voice on the scene? And how long has it been?
I'm going on almost 2 years. From really traveling, I've been doing some stuff around Georgia, like Stranglehold Championship Wrestling. Good friend Eric Nelson, who was running a promotion. He's actually the one who was doing the MomoCon. And I was really just stepping back and just enjoying my family and my new daughter. And that's really key. I'm 44 years old, and I've done everything, and I've done everything I've wanted to do in wrestling. So to me, just chasing something that I've accomplished everything I wanted to. Why continue to run it, and why continue to give the young guys the opportunity. Like, I'm not just a person who talks about giving people opportunity. I'm really, when it comes down to it, I am going to show you my character by showing you my character, not just by blowing smoke at you.
Mm-hmm. And like you were saying, it's giving the younger talent opportunity, but when it was a good time for yourself to get out, not to just keep kind of trying to push and push and push and see where, it ended up. So you felt it was a good time and you got out on your own terms, which is, I mean, perfect. That's what you want as an athlete, is it not?
Right. I mean, I'm not injured. I have no injuries. I feel great. I mean, I'm going to give a cheap plug to Kangen water. Kangen water, I love that stuff. It helps keep me young. Keeps me looking young, and I love it. And so I just really am focusing on my health and my family, and that's really what's important to me. I mean, and in that the earthly realm, we can go somewhere else. I'm a really strong believer in Jesus Christ, and I really have been pushing a lot of reading the Bible, researching, and just really wanting to know. As I was coming up, a lot of people would tell me this about God and that about God, and it'd start to form opinions in my head about who God was, and then I just eventually came to the point where it's like, I want to know who God is. So I'm going to do my own research and find out who he is and what God is. And that's really where my main focus is knowing that who God is. Jesus Christ is my Lord and Savior. And that's the life that I lead now. So.
Now there's many talent out there that are in the same exact boat as you. They wanted their own direction of, who God was and because there's so much around you. You had to kind of find out for yourself. And there's a lot of talent out there that are in the exact same boat as you, and some of them project them through their characters as well on the wrestling scene. And I'll pull one right out of the hat right here. Brother Greatness. He actually, and he makes it very fun. Brother Greatness and Dashing D1000, they're a tag team called the Congregation. But they throw a little comedy in there, and I will tell you, so much fun for us, the fans, and they look like they're having fun, and they're using what they believe in, and they're bringing it to the ring. And I just find it excellent. Every time I see them on the card, I'm like, yes, Brother Greatness and Dashing D, yes.
That's what really makes a character great, though. A great character is someone who really knows how to hone in and make it part of them, or take part of them and put it into their character. And that's the success of Joseph von Schmidt. Leaving Pat Gunner, I'll jump forward to Sabu. I was at an FTW show 8 years in, and Sabu was looking at me, and he told me a story. He told me how he was Terry Bunk, and then his uncle was like, "You're now Sabu," and he was like, "Who's Terry Bunk?" Blah 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 blah. And so I'm like sitting there, and I'm like, this guy's made millions of dollars, and for whatever reason, he's telling me this story. So it started getting my wheels like turning. Then I was on the road. I went up to Massachusetts, I think, to a big time wrestling show with Justin Credible, and John Cena Sr. was there, and he was like, so what's your gimmick? And I was like, oh, Pat Gunner. He was like, what's that? I was like, I don't know. I'm just a big guy and mess people up. He was like, so you're 98% of, guys that are over 6'4". And he was like, how does that make you? How does that make you somebody? And I was like, or how does that make you stick out? And I was like, that's a good point. So like I put the story together, what Sabu told me, and then I put the story together, what John Cena told me. He gave me a couple ideas. He's like, you should be the new George the Animal Steel. And I was like, I don't think I can pull that off. I was like, it's just not me. And he was like, well, what else can you do? And I was like, well, I speak German. I was like, I'm from a German family. I'm like the first generation here in America. And he was like, you be the German. And I was like, yeah, okay. He's like, listen, he goes, I guarantee you. He goes, change your character to the German, come up with a good name, be a German. He goes, within 6 months, you'll be touring out of the country. I was like, you know what? Why am I going to disagree with him? And that day, I started changing my character. I came up with Joseph von Schmidt. Joseph's my middle name. Schmidt Key is my last name, so it's based off of mine. Von is the title of like like a sir. You'd call sir someone, but Von. And so Joseph von Schmidt was born. Then if you see some of my first matches, the accent is pretty rough, but I based the character off of actually my mother. And hopefully she's not watching, but Germans are never wrong, and my mother was just one of those people that was never wrong no matter what. I think I've heard her say I'm sorry maybe 3 times in my life. And that was so
so I'm going to assume that Mr. von Schmidt was on the heel side of wrestling. Were you not, as a character through your tenure?
Well, the reality was, though, is I like tongue in cheek. I kind of laughed when I was on the independents at that point towards like coming to Von Schmidt, because everyone in the back, and I'm not going to expose anybody, but everyone in the back, like, I'm so good, and the crowd likes me, and I'm over, and I need to be over because like my mom's here, and and I need to win because I'm going to try to push this merch. And I heard that, and I was just like, I'm Joseph von Schmidt, and I was like, I'm a bad guy and I lose. So that's what I came into the thing. I was like, whoever you need me to lose to, I was like, that's what my character does. And so I think my first like 10 matches I lost, but I was so good as a heel. And like, the reality is that your baby face of your company is only as good as your top heel. And so a lot of the promoters started to understand that about me. And then from like, my first 10 matches of losing, like then I started winning. And then I won 32 championships in my career.
Holy Caroli.
Yeah.
Wow. Now you've had a 21-year tenure with 32 championships.
32 championships, and then I was in the Pro Wrestling Illustrated Top 500 for 9 years in a row. I was aiming for 10, but I only got 9. And so if I do make a run, it has to be another 10 years, but I have to make it in this year. So
I only made 9 years running. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Wow. What a great fun fact about Mr. JVS. If I may ask, where did you end up at the top run in PWI? Where was the highest that Mr. Von Schmidt was?
Jeez, I don't know exactly, but somewhere in the mid 300s, like wow. 347 or something like that, or maybe even 332. Honestly, I don't really go back, and I don't like. I think a lot of people focus too much on what they've accomplished. I never really focus on what I accomplished. I focus on my next goal. And that's what I think, that's another piece of advice I'd always give to fellow wrestlers. And I'm going to give it to the young, inspiring wrestlers that are watching this now, is don't focus on what you did yesterday and today. Focus on what you're going to do tomorrow. And then just every day you wake up, focus on what you're going to do tomorrow, because you're going to hit certain plateaus. As my career built, I hit plateaus and I just couldn't break walls, but just keep pushing. You don't focus on the past, because that just keeps you at that wall. You just keep pushing. What do I want to do? What are my goals? Do I want to wrestle at AAA? Do I want to wrestle in Japan? Do I want to wrestle in Germany? Where do I want to go? What do I want to do? And when you do hit those goals, it's like, then you make new goals. You don't just, sit back and the accolades of, I won an independent championship,
Well, I have to say, myself as a fan, I like long title runs. I like good storylines, and I love a character. PWA, and I know I keep reverting to PWA, but you're very tied in with that, along with your career. But with that came the Injustice League.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I came in at the very tail end of that. I would like, because I know PWA, they kind of disappeared from Cheshire, but they were supposed to come back this past year, but we all know what happened in
Yeah.
2020.
So I got a case of the sniffles.
Yeah, so so I'm sure, hopefully, we're going to see PWA resurface in the future whenever we can get whatever kind of normal is going on out there. Uh, but the Injustice League, for those of us that don't know of PWA, what was going on, I'm very curious. What was that whole faction or camp? What was going on there? If you could explain, sir.
The Injustice League was based on just characters who were very very young and talented guys that I just wanted to get behind and push. I mean, the only guy that really wasn't young and talented, no offense, is he was very talented but just not young, was Azrael. And Azrael has been around almost as long as me, and he's still doing his thing. And like I do see his stuff, and I always enjoy seeing him, and I always enjoy working with him and being around him. But it was, just trying to push like a Sebastian Cage, a Lord, or Troy Stevens, as he's now called, I think, or whatever his name is now. I don't know what his name is now, but and Dan the Man was part of it, and there was there was many different members of that, especially back in the second run. The Injustice League actually came out in the second run, and then there were other guys. There was the Cubador and JB John. What was his name? What was his wrestling? No. John.
John?
Yeah.
Wasn't it JBL?
I don't know if it was, that's not JBL, it was J something. But a really great guy. He's gone on to stunt work, and he's doing movies, and he's here in the Atlanta scene as well. And it just, it's just about pushing these guys and just taking something of the anti-heroes. Is just, Stone Cold Steve Austin did it best. He made the anti-hero the hero, and that's kind of what we did. We just tried to push it to have a faction, and then we had a strong team of baby faces. We had Dickie Moon, we had Mantequilla, we had Caveman, we had all those guys, and we just needed something that could compete with the baby faces that we had, and that was the idea of the Injustice League.
That was one of the questions I've been waiting to ask of you, because again, I came in at the very end of it, so I seen it, but I didn't get the whole thing, and I knew there was many pieces of that puzzle when it came to the Injustice League.
Right, and when you came in and saw it too, you probably already had seen the flip of it. The Injustice League had actually become the fan favorites. They were fan favorites for especially the heel side, and a lot of the faces liked the Injustice League. But when they first came out, it was trying to balance how the faces were. And you had to get the faces, and to get the faces over. Like, the faces were good, but they needed a bad guy. They needed a bad team.
What was really fun when PWA went to the side, and some of the talent started spreading their wings at different other companies and such. We would take some of the chance, the fans. We would, you're going to like this. We would take some of the chance with us. And I'm going to give you a perfect example right here. Now, I started going to PAPW on the reg. I started going to TOS on the reg. But at PAPW, they started doing a version of their Friday Night Alley fights a while back, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, here comes one Jimmy Limits in through the door, and I seen his name was written down. Now, he didn't have an opponent written on the marketing part on face page. His name was just written down, and I said to my dad, I cannot wait to give Jimmy Loser some ultra heat. Yeah. And here comes Jimmy Limits through the curtain. I stood right up with my phone on record, Mr. JVS, and I did this just like it was PWA. Jimmy Loser, and I got the crowd to start right behind me. My dad called me a jackass and loved every second of it. We had so much fun. And every time Jimmy Limits would come out at PAPW, The crowd would call him Jimmy Loser. It was money, my friend.
There it is. There it is. And those are great stories. You know, that is the story. That is why we do it. You know, that's why we do it. You know, we all bring a different thing of our memory, and we create new ideas and new memories, and it's awesome. It's awesome to hear that. That actually warms my heart more than you probably know. You know,
so much fun. And like you said, the key word, boys and girls, when we talk in this show, the key word that he just said, memories. We always speak about that on this show. Myself and my dad, when we leave the events, we drive home, we're yipping and we're yapping about what just happened and all of these cool things that we just saw and who we saw go against who and all of this stuff. But it's the same thing on the other side of that guardrail, inside that ring. The boys and girls, they take those memories home with them as well. And my goodness, my friend, the memories, and that's why we go to wrestling, to get away from the bull crap, push all of the stuff to the side. It's our therapy to get away from the bull crap. And we take those memories home. And that's why I've always enjoyed the independent wrestling. Obviously, we watched the big stuff growing up and all of the stuff that happened around us and whatnot. But
yeah,
the independent wrestling, my friends, my goodness, the memories that we take home are just totally endless.
Right, and the fans are going to get such a different experience. You know, they're going to get such a different experience than going to the big show and that's the other reason why we hung around. We never pushed anyone out the door at PWA. It's like hang out. You know, the boys are going to be here. They're gonna sign autographs. They're going to hang out. They're going to chit chat, and you know, they're going to make the fans and just, you know, I should call them famsleys. I don't know. Just we've got to make a new word for them because they're family to me. Everywhere I traveled, like the people weren't my fans. They were like family to me. And you know, I know going into, you know, Pennsylvania, there are just always these people that were there that, like, you know, I'm friends to still this day, and they're like family to me. And that's what really was the amazing thing in my wrestling career. Like I never looked down at the fans, like, you know, a lot of wrestlers do. And I saw them as just like, you know, opportunity to not only like, am I going to a new wrestling venue and I'm an opportunity to wrestle with, like, you know, tag teaming with Snitsky against the Powers of Pain. Like I have all these weird like matches that I've had and, you know, and all these big names that I've been in the ring with. But, you know, sometimes some of my more fonder memories are the fans that were at the shows than the people I was in the ring with.
I'm going to use a guy. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him. He's been in the game for probably about 20 years himself. He's out of New Jersey, Dirtbag Dan. Are you familiar with Dirtbag Dan?
Never heard of him. No. Yeah. No, I've heard of him, but we've probably been in a couple locker rooms together, and no offense to him, but you know, I just don't remember.
Well, there's a million trillion wrestlers out there. You can't know them all. That's for sure.
For sure.
But Dirtbag Dan, that reminds me of Dirtbag Dan because he's a guy that, you know, he's stinky, he's filthy, he runs his gums a bit. He puts on a really good show for us, the fans and whatnot. But outside that ring, when he gets out of there and he's at his merch table or he's outside, he's always giving his time to the fans, no matter what it is. Stickers, pins. Hey, you bought a shirt. Take this pin. I want to give you some extra love. Those guys always really stick in our heads. Yeah,
and one thing that I can really admit, and this is like, you know, on a shoot, and this is my experience, is that the heels are actually the nicest guys outside of the ring. You know, the faces, I've had my share of faces from, you can name the top guy in the business. A lot of faces that I've met that play the face are complete scumbags. And like the heels I've met, the heels on they're freaking great. They go out of their way for fans. They go out of the way for the boys. They're really, and I just don't know how that comes about, but it just, that's my experience. Like some of the guys that you know, people that are watching them on TV and this and that, and they're like, oh, he's such a jerk and boo, and the greatest guys that you'll ever meet.
Can you watch wrestling as a fan after all of the time you've spent in the business, running a promotion and such, training students, molding the next generation? Can you honestly sit back, watch a wrestling program, and not pick it apart and just enjoy it as a fan? Is that even remotely in your life?
Nah, I can't. I don't even watch wrestling. I don't even watch wrestling. I don't even. If you were to put a $100 bill in front of me on the table to if I could remember last time I watched wrestling, you would win that bet.
Now, is it the evolution of wrestling to where it's become, because a lot of guys, I speak to so much of the talent, Mr. Von Schmidt, that legit don't watch the higher platforms anymore because of what it's evolved into. Did you just kind of lose interest because of the evolution of wrestling? Is that what happened?
No, I just enjoyed what I was doing, and I enjoyed building my students, and I enjoyed that, and I enjoyed coming up with the stuff. Like when you're in the ring, like we would train 6 days a week. We would train, and we'd be in there doing our thing, and where I'd have guys coming, regardless. A lot of people don't know who Joseph Von Schmidt is or who I am, but when you have guys like Goldust and Mick Foley and Piper coming in and watching me and taking some of my moves and bringing them back to WWE and giving them to other guys, and then you see your moves, or you hear about your moves being used on TV, the following week when you're in the locker room with them, I don't get offended by it, but it's just it also just reminded me of how good I really was, so.
There's a couple guys out there actively that are quite heated about, some of their moves being used on the bigger stage without having the recognition, if you will, of said move. I've seen it as a fan. Does it turn me off? Absolutely. I think it's part of that politic and drama end of it, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it just reminds me of that. But then on the other side, go ahead.
No, I'll let you finish your question. Go
ahead. And then on the flip side of that, we see guys like Ty Shine in the ring doing his thing, looking pretty good. And then he's kind of using some of the moves that Slick Wagner has brought to the table and such. And we poke fun at him. We're like, hey, is that Ty Shine or Slick Wagner Brown? It's hard to tell sometimes. Mm-hmm. But he takes it in stride. And Slick Wagner knows that it's a homage, if you will, to himself.
Yes, of course, especially if he's got his hand in creating Ty Shine. That's different. But when you have someone, like for me, I'll just go back to it before I answer the rest of this question. I really don't care. To me, if someone is going to, use whatever I do and whatever I create, that going back to the ACW days, I was one of the first guys who created the release suplex, and people came up to me and oh, isn't that dangerous? Aren't you going to hurt someone? I was like, well, it's just a suplex, and then I release them before they hit the mat. So what I do is take a suplex, and then as I was coming down, I'd release them, and they would land in the buckle. And, and I caught a bunch of, flack for it. And then all of a sudden, a year or two later, you see it everywhere. And it's and it's moves like that. Like the Usos, they took my buckle bomb. Goldust took it from seeing me do it in FTW, and then he introduced it and gave it to the Usos, and the Usos did it the following week. So if you really go back and look at history, you'll see Goldust on an FTW show with me, and then the following week you'll see the Usos doing my finish. It's just that's the truth, that's fact. I'm not bitter about it or anything, but it's a homage, and it was just those things that reminded me of I really am getting somewhere by creating my own stuff.
You have the skill that are eye catching enough to see the high, and I hate to say higher or lower talent, but it's on a different stage when it was WWF and WWE and such. So that talent is seeing your stuff and bringing it home with them over there. So you're saying, I just feel that my skill is good enough to, hey, you're taking my stuff and you're bringing it to that kind of a platform.
Right. And here's another thing for it too. It's like, William Regal and I have never trained together, never stepped in the ring. I met him at WWE. We talked for maybe about, 4 or 5 minutes, but my training style is so similar to his. I've never studied any of his thing, but people who have trained with him and have trained with me, they state that, that there's so much that we have in common in our training of students.
Wow. I could go on and on and on and on with Joseph von Schmidt. Before we bring this to a tail end, and I know we've covered a lot of ground and there's still so much more. First off, do you think maybe in the future, would it be possible if we got a follow-up with Mr. von Schmidt? Would that be possible?
Sure. That sounds good to me, man. This went pretty good. I'm walking away from this interview not completely despising you. So
thank you for that. Second off, is there anything that we haven't touched upon that you would really like either a message to, and I know you've already sent out a couple messages to the younger generation on the upcoming, is there any message to the younger generation or to anybody out there? Before we get that far, what in the bleep is going on with PWA? And I know it's an odd time. What's going on with PWA?
PWA is planning on doing one more show. We're looking to get a venue. We're trying to secure a venue. We're looking sometime early fall. So the weather's at least still good because we might run an outside show or we might run an indoor show depending on what the vid-19 is looming around. But we're in works right now with that and just trying to lock down a venue and a date. And we just don't know what's going to happen because February 1st is going to run a whole different new set of regulations with the new presidency. And so we just need to see what happens.
Okay, fair enough. Now, is there anything that you'd like to send out as a message to the younger talent or the fans or anything that we haven't touched upon that you would like to send out there?
Yeah, sure. I want to just it'll go back to touching on what you asked me if I could watch a show and pick it apart. And I said that I really don't watch wrestling. I never let wrestling, wrestling used to consume me in my life. And I got to a point where, like I said, I accomplished everything that I really set out to do. I mean, granted, there's one thing that I haven't done that I really would like to do before my career ended, and that is working in CMLL in Mexico and in Arena, Mexico. That's like one of my top things of what my career was, and that's actually one of the last goals I set for myself. But I just stepped away. I'm not consumed by wrestling anymore. Like I go down to AR Fox's school, WWA4 in Atlanta, and I train the guys down there and help out. And I haven't been down there in about 3-4 months, but sorry guys, I'll check in soon. But just don't be consumed. Don't be consumed by wrestling. Like, do it because you like it. Do it because you love it. When you don't love it anymore, start looking at something else, either writing the storylines or being a manager or, you know what I mean? It's just, life is too short to be consumed about such a silly thing as pro wrestling.
Mm-hmm. Fine message, my friend. Appreciate that. Is there anything that's going on in your life right now that you would like to promote? Because that's why we have the talent. We want to push the talent. Is there anything that there's to promote? And it doesn't have to do with wrestling. It could be you could be doing arts and crafts on the side. Who knows what you got going on?
Yeah. I'm just with me. I'm just kind of, like I said, I'm really studying, pressing into the Bible and reading that and learning, the translation from Hebrew and Greek and trying to really understand what it says. Like I'm working on some books and a kid's book and possibly a PWA book, wrestling memoir, something like that. Also, I'm actively in film, so I'm going to be doing a movie coming up in midsummer in PA. It's Escape from Muddy Run is going to be the name of that. And I'm actually working on writing a movie myself, which I'm going to have some of my buddies who don't know this yet. So just bring it out there right now on this one. I'll be giving them a call to bring their cameras, and we're going to actually start shooting some stuff. So, so it's all pretty cool right there. I'm super busy. I'm super busy. So
I was just about to say you are a very super busy man. Holy cow. When you said movie, I thought you were going to be like in Marine 12 or something. But where can this movie that you're in, what's the name of it one more time, and where can we find it?
Well, I didn't start filming it yet. It's called Escape from Muddy Run. It starts filming in midsummer. We don't have a set date for it, but it's going to be in PA. It's going to be Wild Boar Films. I've also done other movies in the past. So, Scarecrows of the Third Reich. What was the other one that I did? Blood Circus. You can find that on Amazon Prime. There's a bunch of different movies I've done, and I like doing that kind of stuff too. And just be diversified. And life is about experiences. And there's a lot more experiences than just being in the wrestling ring.
Well, some fine messages, so much information. I'm so glad that Joseph von Schmidt agreed to talk to me, because all he had to do was look up my stuff and he'd be like, I don't know, you're too freaky for me. Yeah. I really do appreciate you coming in and spending the time with us.
Yeah, I almost turned down this interview because when I did look up some of your stuff, all I saw was Omar on here, so just see his face all the time. No, I love Omar. He was a great part of PWA, so it's good to see that he's doing some stuff with you. And I always wish him the best of luck, and all the other guys out there. That I didn't mention by names. It doesn't mean that I don't have you in my heart. There's just a ton of them. There's just so many guys that I've worked with, thousands of guys in my career, and I love every single one of them.
Heartfelt from Mr. Joseph von Schmidt. If I didn't meet, if I wasn't going to PWA, I would have never seen High Voltage Omar. I've been following him since the day he wrestled at PWA. For one reason and one reason only, he kind of swore at Nathaniel Carr, and I thought it was the funniest thing ever in Spanish. And I've been following the guy ever since, and we have this weird relationship, but we still have a relationship.
Oh, yeah, that's between you and him. I really don't want to know about your weird, funky relationship with Omar.
Oh, God, he's going to kill me just for saying that.
Omar, I might give you a call and find out what this weird relationship is, Mr. High Voltage.
No, don't do that. He's going to hate you for. Don't mention my name. Whatever you do, don't mention my name. Boys and girls, we had such a fine time with Joseph von Schmidt, and I cannot thank him enough. And hopefully he enjoyed himself enough to where he does want to come back for a follow-up, because you never know. Some of the talent might say yes, but they really mean no. So hopefully we get to see Mr. von Schmidt in the future.
Well, one thing about me, my yes is my yes and my no is no. If I tell you no, it's not going to happen. And if I tell you yes, it's going to happen. I live and die by my word.
A man of his word is one JVS. This is Stirring the Pot with Don Kincaid and my very special guest, Joseph von Schmidt. Thank you, sir.
All right, brother. Maloha. See ya.